Everybody. We've gathered today listening to Harmonia Artificiosa by Heinrich Bieber, and this is a piece of Baroque instrumental music that Michael appreciated very much and shared with Kristen. And you all know that love of music helped to bring Michael and Kristen together. Throughout the afternoon, we'll hear some other pieces of music that Mike found beautiful and shared with Kristen. And in the fine Michael Hirota tradition, I will share factoids about those pieces of music from Mike. That's actually, they're not my factoids, they're Mike's factoids. My name is Joe Curran. I was a good friend of Mike's from the Boston years, lived with him for 5 years. It's really on behalf of Kristen and Mike's parents, Ted and Clara, and Mike's brothers, John and Craig, that I welcome you and thank you for coming today, for your love and gratitude for Mike, and for your support for those of us who also loved him. We hope today to reflect on and maybe share together some memories of Mike, and to share some things that Mike found beautiful and worthwhile, and to offer each other some support and comfort and hope. I was blessed with a continuing friendship with Mike after our Boston years that included long emails about politics, sports, animals, and Star Wars movies. Many of you probably have some of the same kinds of stories of connection to this wonderful man. At a recent Zoom gathering of Boston friends, classmates, and roommates a few weeks ago, we all shared the insight that talking to Mike or exchanging emails or messages with him was an invitation really to slow down and consider things carefully and deliberately, almost meditatively. Michael took his time, he saw things that other people missed, and he invited us to thoughtful conversations and considerations. When my family acquired our first dog 8 years ago, Mike wrote to me that there would be accidents and messes, but that the dog will love you guys like crazy, and her vulnerability and dependence on you, and the responsibility this calls on you, will really touch you. I think of that often, and Mike often made me think of things in a new way. And because Mike helped us to slow down and to notice things, we'd like to begin today with an opportunity to silently reflect on a memory of Mike. And I invite you to choose a moment or an image or an event or a quote, or to just spend a quiet minute reflecting on that memory with love and gratitude. In a few moments later on, we'll have an opportunity to share those memories with each other. Right now, we have a reading from the Book of Wisdom, which will be read by Kara Anthony, who's a graduate school friend of Mike's.
A reading from the Book of Wisdom. The souls of the just are in the hand of God, and no torment shall touch them. They seemed, in the view of the foolish, to be dead, and their passing away was thought an affliction, and their going forth from us utter destruction. But they are in peace. For if therefore men indeed they be punished, for if before men indeed they be punished, yet is their hope full of immortality. Chastised a little, they shall be greatly blessed, because God tried them and found them worthy of himself. As gold in the furnace, he proved them, and as sacrificial offerings, he took them to himself. In the time of their visitation, they shall shine, and shall dart about as sparks through stubble. They shall judge nations and rule over peoples, and the Lord shall be their king forever. Those who trust in him shall understand truth, and the faithful shall abide with him in love. Because grace and mercy are with his holy ones, and his care is with the elect.
So this music that we're about to hear now is Meditation from an opera called Thais by Jules Massenet. And when Mike shared this piece with Kristen, he noted that it's an instrumental piece from an opera, but that it's so good that the violin soloist got a standing ovation at its first performance. ex-wife, Kristen, wrote a eulogy for him, and she's asked me to read it. It occurred to me rather late that I should write something about Michael for the service. I think this is because I can't stop thinking of Michael as if he's just away on some long trip and will be home at any moment. In fact, in my dreams, I keep asking him when he's coming home. When I do realize that he is never coming home, the great W.H. Auden comes to mind, and I just want to stop all the clocks and cut off the telephones for now. Nothing can ever come to any good. I was living with some close friends in the Boston area at the time Michael first came into my life. We all belonged to a local chorus group, and one evening, my friend Henry laughed out loud at an email Michael had written. When my friend Lisa, Henry's wife, and I asked what was so funny, Henry read the email to us. I no longer remember what Michael had written, but I clearly remember Lisa and I having an aha moment, looking at Henry at the same time and forcing him to ask Michael if he'd like to go out on a double date. All I knew of Michael before then was that I thought he was handsome, and I loved his deep singing voice. I found out later he joined the chorus to meet women. True story. It wasn't long before I discovered that not only was he funny, handsome, and talented, but that he was an extremely intelligent man, a deep thinker. If it weren't for his kindness, gentleness, and generosity, I think I would have been too intimidated to go out with him. As it was, and from the very beginning, he never focused on himself and always focused on me. He called me his little ray of sunshine and always reminded me of what he saw in me that I often could not see in myself. He was content to let me shine in any given situation and fully supported me, often without me knowing that he was pulling the strings in the background to make my life better. For 21 years, Michael opened up a whole new world for me. He was the most well-rounded person I had ever met and understood the value of life. He was known for his emails full of life observations and fun factoids. Whenever I'd ask him, "Who's that?" or "When did that happen?" he'd look at me with those beautiful and soulful eyes and lovingly tease me with, "But sweetie, he's famous." He had the gift of perspective and would remind me what is important in life, or just send me funny cat videos to make me stop for a moment and laugh. We shared many laughs, a few tears, and lots of affection. We enjoyed each other's company, whether it was sitting together quietly, sharing a good meal, or going to concerts and sporting events. I can only hope he really knew how much I loved and appreciated him. He was my world. He was truly my north, my south, my east, and my west, my working week, my Sunday best, my noon, my midnight, my talk, and my song. As it does for so many, Auden's poem captures my grief perfectly. There is one exception, however. My love for Michael will last forever, and I can't wait to see him again in the next life. I know he will be there to greet me and show me the way, including introducing me to all those famous people. Until then, my love, rest in peace and happiness. So our next musical interlude is Obra Ma Fui, and in sharing this piece with Kristen, Mike's factoid was that he pointed out that the words of the song are in praise of the shade of a tree. If you have any memories of Mike that you'd like to share with everyone gathered here and those that are tuning in from far away, we'd invite you to come forward and do so now. If you're comfortable doing so, please come up and use the microphone so the folks who are online can hear as well. But anything, whatever you'd like to share with us, memories, images of Mike.
So I'm struck by something maybe far deeper than I realized before I got down here today, and that is that there are so many facets to Mike that I never knew. I look around this room and I know that each one of you holds something, a unique perspective of Mike. And listening to the words so far and reading about Mike beforehand, I realized that what I felt about Mike was actually so much deeper looking back from this place right now. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Roger. I'm the Biotech after hours wiring guy, which means my job is to come in after everybody's out of a building and it's dark and it's lonely and it lasts to 2, 3, 4, 5 in the morning. And due to some childhood trauma, I intensely don't like the dark. Yet I find myself crawling through small areas that are completely dark, dragging wire, looking for some missing wire. And oftentimes Mike will meet me at the start of a job and he'll explain, hey, it's here and you're gonna have to go through here. And one night he asked me, why don't you put on a headlamp or something? You're crawling around in the dark, and I always carry the headlamp. And I said, man, when I turn the light on, it makes the dark around me feel so much darker, so much scarier, because the only thing I can see is where I look. With the light off, I'm a little more comfortable. I shared that with Mike probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I have worked multiple times with him since then. And every single time I'm on a site with Mike and he's getting ready to leave, he'll say something like, hey man, I know I couldn't really help you out, but I was here for a bit and I'm gonna leave you alone now. And I was always struck by that disconnect I felt in that moment of knowing that this one guy who I wasn't even in the room with, he was just in the building, was this deep presence, making it okay for me to crawl around in the dark. And I have gone back to a few buildings in the past 2 months, and Mike isn't there. And I honestly can say in some ways I am comfortable.
So I knew Mike when he lived in Boston and was going to Boston College, and he and Joe Curran and my wife Kara were all at Boston College around the same time, and Mike decided that he didn't want to continue with the PhD program, and he dropped out of it and got various jobs in Boston. I think one of the first one was he worked as a secretary at Boston University, and I was not studying theology. I'm a cartoonist, and so both of us bonded over kind of struggling with employment and gaining meaning from employment and being paid for employment. And we were helping. I've told this story to Kristen and other people, but we were early on in our friendship, we were helping some other friends move out of this apartment, and we were going down in this incredibly rickety elevator from like the turn of the century, which was in a lot of apartment buildings in Boston, where you hope it was inspected, but you're not sure. And it's an open cage, so you're looking at the cables going up to the roof on it. And we had packed this thing full of this person's stuff so that we were barely able to fit into the elevator thing. And I was looking at the thing about what the weight limit of the elevator was as it's going down, making these creaking noises. And he and I said something to Mike. I'm like, I hope we haven't overloaded this. And he goes, you realize that if we die right now, it'll read in the paper as Boston University's secretary and Kinko's employee die in elevator crash. So, and another thing, sort of, he was really good at like synthesizing a lot of things into one quip or one remark. And like another one that I remember was I was asking him, I had to buy a new computer, and this was like this was the 90s, and like computers were still kind of a new thing, and I was asking about, you know, how much RAM or memory or whatever to put into it, and sort of being anxious about it. And Mike said, you know, was saying, oh, you know, just get this one thing. And he said, computers are just muscle cars for nerds. And so I liked that a lot. I ended up making that into a cartoon, but he was very funny, and I'll miss his sense of humor.
If there's someone else, yeah, come on up.
I just wanted to say that listening to everyone, I didn't really know Michael that well, though I've been acquainted with him for over 50 years. I remember when his mother was pregnant with him. And he was the light of his parents' eyes. She was always so proud of him. And she always kept me informed everything that Michael was doing now, from philosophy to religion to IT. And he was always a kind, thoughtful person, and he loved animals. Boy, did he love animals. So kind and gentle, and we will also miss him.
My name is Sid. I'm one of the owners of Bitech. I knew Mike for like the last 5 or 6 years or so, and just want to share one story, which was a couple years ago we got hit with a ransomware attack, which was devastating, but Mike just worked and worked and worked. And I just remember one night, like, we're all frazzled, and I typed an email to him. I'm like, Mike, stop. Just go to bed. Just stop, because we're not really making any headway. We're all fried. Like, you just need to take a break. And I honestly don't think he did. I think he just kept working, even though I told him to stop. And I just remember, he was just awesome. So, thank you.
I just want to add one of my own before we conclude. Mike, as everyone's been saying, a gentle, compassionate, really very understanding person. If he ever really got frustrated, it was typically because somebody innocent was being treated unfairly, right? I mean, that was the sort of thing that might get him worked up. The one time I did see him get a little frustrated on his own behalf was when we were living together, and Mr. and Mrs. Hirota were visiting. And Mrs. Hirota had made some California rolls and left a big pile of them in the refrigerator. And Mike and I, the Hirotas had gone home, and Mike and I were coming home from BC on the bus together, and he was talking about how much he was looking forward to the leftover. Well, our other 2 roommates ate the California rolls, so I want to apologize on their behalf to Mrs. Hirota right now. And I got to say, to his credit, Mike was good about it. I mean, he tried to be good about it, but he was, but he did enjoy his parents' visit and his mom's cooking. Yeah. So before we go to the reception and then afterwards go our separate ways, let's just take a moment to remember Mike and the many blessings that he brought to all of our lives. May these memories ease our sadness and strengthen our hope as we remember him with love and look forward to being reunited with him again. Although we part in sorrow, we also share gratitude for the gift that Mike was for each of us, for his thoughtfulness, his compassion, his perception, his friendship. Let us continue to cherish these memories, to console each other, and to remind each other of Mike's goodness and generosity. We commend Mike to God's care and each other to God's consoling love. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May his soul and the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace.
This does conclude this part of the service. However, we will be continuing Mike's celebration of life by joining everybody at the back of the chapel. There is a reception set up, and then coming back in here to visit. On behalf of the family, I would like to thank you all for coming today.